Okay, so we had some technical difficulties. I was looking to, do the interview from the Aspire to Cultivate site there. The fact that you're outside and this is very informal really made me come outside as well, and some invited me to be here. So, with that being said, yes, 10 rules for success. Everybody look at or has a definition of success. The next few interviews that I do will be for from the home team, people back in Youngstown that I personally consider to be successful. And as we continue to have this type of dialogue or just this types of conversations in general, I'm pretty sure some people may want to actually do their top 10. It doesn't necessarily have to be 10. Speaking with Theodore Block, Teddy, I think his list consists of maybe five at the most. So you'll start to see, some of that as we begin to have this conversation. But I'm totally excited here for you to just go over what success means for you. Um, Not only what success means for you, but your top 10 rules to be successful.
Okay, so do you want me to just start with my top 10 rules?
Yes, your top 10
Okay.
rules.
All right.
Doesn't necessarily have to be in no specific order. Um,
Okay.
but I will probably ask you to define success and what it means to you first before you go into your actual rules, as it will
Okay.
give more clarity of how you actually are thinking of success and what it means to you and your family.
Right. Okay. Well, funny because my rule number one was create your own definition. So for me, as you said, success is different for everybody. My definition of success has changed over the years because I became a mother. And that ideally changed success for me. So before, success just meant, getting a good job, being able to make good money, traveling. I guess what people would say, just living the life, living lit. When I became a mother, though, success for me meant to build something that my kids would be able to look to, be motivated by, and carry out.
Absolutely.
So, success for me has just been finding out what makes me happy, looking at what I want to achieve in life and literally going for it. And having kids actually made part of that successful journey mean never giving up on anything. So with school, I always knew I wanted to be a nurse. I went to school. I did not go through, straight. I actually had some backs. I had to take time off of school. I had to end up paying for school myself.
Mm.
And that changed a lot. But for me, I wanted my degree. So I didn't go the traditional 4-year college for my nursing career. I became an aide and then I went to school to become an LPN. I became an LPN, then I went back to YSU to get my bachelor's degree and I ended up getting it in English and psychology. Worked for a few years, went back to school, got my RN, and then I am in taking a training course now for doula birth work, and I'll be going back to school in August just to continue building on my nursing degree. So for me, it's modeling an example of what it's like to go get what you want. Like my kids think it's totally cool to do homework when mommy's doing homework. Um, and that's just a different motivation for me. So creating stability. Mental, I think I've seen somebody just say something about emotional spiritual wealth required for sure, definitely, because your emotional and your spiritual and your physical have to be intact to become successful, and understanding that your success may change,
Absolutely.
and being okay with that. So I guess that for me, that's what success is. Being able to build something that I can leave behind for my kids is
Mm.
success for me. So that would be number one, creating your own definition.
Mhm.
The sec The second rule for me would be to set up attainable goals and be perfectly okay with being flexible to achieve them.
Mm,
That is major, because everything does not happen how you want it to happen. And you can't let that stop you from going after your goals. And understanding that a 5 year goal plan may need to turn into a 10 year, but that's okay. Take the steps
absolutely.
to get there. So that flexibility for me is what happened, because if I would have just went according to when I thought I should have became a nurse versus when
Hmm.
I did, then I would have probably chose something else, and that wouldn't have been that wouldn't have made me happy, because nursing is what I wanted to do. So I I walked across the stage at YSU, and I was pregnant with my first child.
Hmm.
I graduated from RN school, and I had a 6 week old when I graduated. So I literally
Whoa.
doubled up on clinical rotations. And the only day that I missed class was when I actually was in labor. And other than that, I was in class with a breast pump and I was there. So I had to be flexible, very much so, to achieve my goal there.
Absolutely.
Number three would be keep an open mind. You can't limit yourself when it comes to what you want out of life. If you box yourself in, then you really do yourself an injustice. And understanding that things that you may never have thought to be for you may
Hmm.
end up being for you. Or things change. Your environment will change, the people in your life will change. However, that cannot change you at the core of who you are. So you have to keep an open mind.
Hmm.
Number four would be keep your environment positive.
Absolutely.
Negativity definitely can kill a vibe. Um, that is one of the things for me. I worked in psych for years. I absolutely love psych, and it made me just so much more aware of myself,
Hmm.
how I talk to other people, how I deal with other people, why I'm defensive in certain situations.
Absolutely.
And that in a whole, I always say, people become adults, but when they don't deal with things from childhood, they literally react in adulthood to those childlike ways because they have unresolved issues. And I've seen it so much. And I don't just say people, because then I identify with my own issues and why I interact with certain people the way I do.
Hmm.
And that's major. So definitely have to do some maintenance. You have to understand when it's too much. Um, you have to move around and be okay with everybody's
Absolutely.
not going to make it on your journey, and you have
Absolutely.
to accept that. So that would be number
Absolutely.
four for me.
Before you
Num
pivot to number five, quick question.
Yes,
That
yes.
number four, how are you able to cultivate a positive environment consistently? Is it mindset, or is it just the people that's around you who mirror the values or the norms that you are actually looking for?
I would say self care is big when it comes to that, because you have to literally take care of yourself. I don't care how many positive people are around you. If you are in a place within yourself, that's a struggle. So I definitely had to start doing things like, okay, so when I make my hair appointments, I'm going to my hair appointment. I don't care. I have my biweekly massages that are a must. I have to go do those. I recently got back into writing, which is a passion of mine.
Hmm.
And for so long, I was too busy to take the time to do that. And it is actually a very healing thing for me. Some people, music is their thing, exercising. I'm not the one to be at the gym every day, but I will. He said, "Is that gray?" I see. I was about to say, "Yeah, I'm covering my." He might be talking to you, right? Like I was covering it up. Um, but like walking and understand, like taking a walk around my neighborhood with my kids. That is like
Hmm.
fresh air. Does wonders for me. So
Absolutely.
self care is definitely major in keeping a consistent positive, because it's okay to go through things and be upset. It's okay to have sad moments. It's okay to go through those motions, but to bring it back. I always tell people it's okay to
Absolutely.
feel some type of way. Just do not take out a mortgage there. Like visit and leave. Don't buy a house there. So
Yeah,
that would be to me self-care is major, in keeping that positive environment.
absolutely. I appreciate you explaining that.
No, not a problem. Number 5, rule for success: do it for you. I can't say that enough. Um, for many, when I first went to school, it was about making my mom proud, making my sister proud. And I remember when I had like a financial issue and I went to my sister, and my sister, of course, no issue, no problem. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pay for it. But I remember crying because I was like nervous about asking her to pay for it. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to fail you and mommy. Like that was my thing. I don't want to fail y'all. I want to do this for y'all. And she like, you can't fail me. Like you're my little sister, but you inspire me all the time. Your personality, your character. And I was just like, oh, okay. And in that moment, I had to realize like I can't do any of this for somebody else. I have to do it for myself. I'm the one that's driving me.
Absolutely.
So understanding that like you're doing it for yourself, because when you get to that victory, like the worst thing in the world is when you achieve something or you do something because you think someone else wants you to do it, um, and they're just not as excited as you thought they would be, or you don't get the response that you thought you would get, and then
Hmm.
that takes away from your accomplishment. And so you have to do it for self, so when you do it, you're proud of it, you're happy, and that's what matters.
Absolutely. That's a good call out. Great call out. Good points.
So let's see, number 6, it's okay to change your mind. As I said, success changes. It's different. As a little girl, I wanted to be married, have my family, have this career.
Mhm.
And as I got older, well, I had a kid and I wasn't married. Does that mean that this is a bad thing? No, it just changed my idea of what I felt like a success was. And that, not that I'm against marriage or I wouldn't mind being married, but I didn't feel like a failure because I had to understand, okay, I went a different route. Um, but to me, being a wife doesn't trump being a mother. So my job is still, important. Of course, the day comes that I become a wife, those two things will have equal, you know, time to be put into them. But I can't
Absolutely.
look at what I thought I should be or should do and let that waver me. So it was okay to change my mind how I felt about what success looked like in my personal life, as well as my career and my professional life.
Hmm.
Number 7, celebrate all accomplishments, big and small. I can't say that enough. Too many times we are, before we can even accomplish one thing, we are trying to figure out what to do next because, like, this isn't enough. You will burn yourself out.
Yeah.
You will you can slip into depression easily
Hmm.
because you are literally, I don't know, holding yourself up against this imaginary pedestal. That would go along the lines too of celebrate whatever it is going on in your life. I don't care who got a degree, who got married, who got a job, who bought a house. What did you do? Be
Absolutely.
happy with that, because we all walk different patterns. We all have different paths in life. And what's major to me may be small to you, and vice versa. What's small to you may be big to me. So if
Yeah.
paying off debt was something you were working towards, be proud of that you paid off debt. Graduating,
Absolutely.
getting your kids off out of graduating from high school, like those, celebrate everything. Um, because you don't want
Yeah,
to look back and feel that you took something for granted, honestly.
absolutely. Touch on that piece around emotional intelligence, or that self awareness of knowing that certain obstacles or certain things will actually lead you to depression or low self esteem. Touch on that just a bit.
So yeah, so there is like what is believed to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
What you believe about self is. I always say that when people are like, that's their perspective. I'm like, listen, perception is reality. What I feel is. So if I feel like what I'm doing is not enough, or I feel like I failed, then I start walking in that. and so easily. If you feel like somebody had mentioned I cried when I got my first C in high school. I mean, I bawled my eyes out. They thought somebody died in my family because I was so upset. And I'm like, called my mom first period, like, Mom, I'm so sorry, I got a C, because that was the first C that I had. And it, to me, I failed
Right.
at what I was doing in school. And it was like, no, it actually made me identify that I was struggling in a certain area. And it wasn't necessarily, it was geometry, but my teacher, me and her clashed. So I had to kind of like pull myself, and I did a lot to focus. I had to teach myself more at home because me and her just didn't see eye to eye. So it
Absolutely.
took away from my learning. However, that broke me down though. You get what I'm saying? And
No, I
so
follow.
I was like, C doesn't stand for cute. And in my adult life, when something happened and I'm like, oh, I didn't graduate when I was supposed to. I remember when I re-enrolled in school and I called a friend because I went to see the advisor and I realized that I could graduate within a year. And I was like so excited. I called her. I was crying on a voicemail, like, oh my goodness. So the light at the end of the tunnel, I can see it. Like, it's here. I can get my degree. Like, I'm going to finish. Because most people were like, girl, you a nurse now. Why you want to go back to school? But getting a degree was important to me.
Right.
So I remember that, and I remember when I started getting to the finish, because when you get to that finish line, it's like, oh, I hate it. Like, I want it to be over. She called me, and she left, and she replayed that voicemail for me to like
Mm,
be like, look how far you came, and that was important because you'll get sucked into everything else that's going on around you, and that makes it difficult to come out of. And people do slip into depression that way because they don't feel that they're fulfilling their purpose. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know why they can't make changes. So initially, you'll just keep doing the same things or making choices that will negatively impact you
mm,
because that's what you are basically manifesting on yourself.
absolutely.
So that would be what it would be for me. So you have to protect your emotional 110%. And I'm going to throw in there at this point now, because I'm a big proponent of counseling is absolutely a-okay. Therapy
Absolutely.
is a-okay. um
Definitely had it myself.
so
Had it myself several times. We'll
it,
discuss that
it
later.
it's necessary in many ways, and sometimes you don't know how necessary it is until you're going through it,
Yeah.
which would slide me into my next one, which was asking for help is an essential resource, not a weakness. I think in our culture, majorly, we've been kind of, you got to be strong. Everybody shouldn't be in your business, So we're like bottling things up because we want to be this person, and that weighs you down. I
Mm-hmm.
am a very expressive person, so I like to communicate. I want to get stuff off my chest. I feel like if I hold on to anything, I feel like I could be on the next episode of Snapped when I blow up, and I don't want to ever have to get to that place in my life. So realizing when to ask for help, and that's in any department, whether it's you're struggling in school, ask your teacher, get a tutor. If it's at work, when you are having an evaluation with your boss, ask how can I improve,
Mm-hmm.
in my area. What can I do differently? As a parent, it is okay if you have a support system, utilize your support system. I
Mm-hmm.
love when my mom tells me when her off days are, because kids, y'all go into granny house because I just need a moment to myself.
Yeah.
Just utilizing those resources, and the resources are out there, so sometimes you do have to reach and really ask people for them. Because I, working in a hospital, I was surprised somebody showed me a resource book. It was like this thick, and I'm like, that's all Mahoney and Trumbull County? She like, yeah. I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
So just, I mean, I guess that goes into, it's not always what you know, but who you know. So
Mm-hmm.
reaching out and reaching out, because resources will always help you along the way with networking too. So
Absolutely. Keaton said no soup for you.
no soup. Let me see. So number nine,
Okay.
1 9. Do not be afraid of or apologize for your growth. Losing friends, losing people along the way will sometimes put you in a place where you're questioning yourself, questioning your choices that you made. And you can't be afraid of growth, and you can't apologize for growing, because only I can make the best decisions for me. I can't make
Mhm.
the best decisions for the next person, and they can't make the best decisions for me. So I have to do for me what is best and be okay with that. But I feel like just saying don't be afraid and don't apologize, because I feel like we always feel like we owe somebody an explanation
Absolutely.
for why we did what we did, or how we move the way we move. But on the
Hmm.
piggyback to that, if you do need to apologize, also don't be afraid to apologize. Sometimes we fuck up.
Ownership. Yeah, ownership. Yeah,
Yeah,
own it.
you gotta own it. You have to own it. And don't just be with words, like show and action. Sometimes I tell people, sometimes it's hard to apologize, but change behavior is an apology. Be consistent with that.
So
So,
so people grow. Everybody grow. You either grow together or you grow apart. Pretty much.
definitely,
Got it.
definitely. And if somebody is not growing, you can't make them. You
Yeah,
can't.
that's a
You
good
can't make
point.
them. I don't care. I don't care how much you water them. If they're not ready to grow, they're not gonna grow. They're not plants.
Absolutely.
They're people. So then my last one would be: do not fear failure so much that it cripples you.
Mm.
I had a major fear of failure, to the degree that if I felt like I wasn't going to do great, or if I couldn't see it from point A to B to C, I wasn't doing it. And it worked for a while, because I just did what I knew I was going to do good at, what I knew I could excel at. But then I realized that I wasn't taking advantage of opportunities that maybe I could have.
Absolutely.
And was I blocking it out to be like, so in nursing, for instance, one of the things, like, I would never want to work in, I would never want to work in psych. That was one of my things.
Hmm.
Love psych. It's my absolute favorite. I feel like it taught me so much, because I feel like psychiatric patients are everywhere you go. I feel like everybody could get a diagnosis if they sat on a couch long enough, and talked
Hmm.
about things in life. So I instead of pushing myself to the back in school, I kind of pushed myself to the front. I started raising my hand. I'll do it. I'll take advantage, because I needed to experience things to get out of my own way. That's big.
That's
Getting
a
out of
great
your
point.
own way. And in my personal life, just understanding, like, I used to be big on, like, well, I'm not going to say nothing if they don't say anything. But I'm like, no, I got something to say. Pick me. I got a question. Well, tell me, how does this work? I actually have been an RN for a little over a year now. I went
Hmm.
into a job interview as an LPN, and I was kind of sad, because I'm like, dang, they ain't calling me back. But I had passed my NCLEX time. I called them and was like, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm an RN now. So in case you find somebody else for that position. And I literally got a call back from the manager, and she was like, I'm glad you called me. I wanted you as an RN.
That's
Like, that's
dope.
why I didn't call you for the LPN position. I'm like, oh, okay. And then, like, 6 months into that job, another position came up, and I literally asked somebody who trained me, like, do you think I should apply, or am I too new of a nurse to go for the
Right.
position? And she was like, no, apply, Jonnelle. So I still was on the fence, didn't know. I had a particular patient who, just working with them for a couple of months, really was like, oh yeah, I'm going for this interview. And I
Hmm.
never forget, like, the director was sitting across from me, and you know how you can read people's energy.
Yes.
And I had, like, answered a question, and her face, like, lit up, and she, like, looked over at the manager like, oh, I
Uh-huh.
guess you did explain. Like, she know exactly what the job entails, but I guess somebody else didn't. So that kind
Yeah.
of, like, threw her. And when they offered me the job, the one manager just admitted, and she said, honestly, when I seen you wanted the job, she said, I was already on the edge. Like, I don't want to hire her because she's a newer RN. And I think she needs more experience. But she said, your interview blew me away. I couldn't not offer you the job. So, I mean, that's just an example. Like, I didn't fear not I didn't fear being the new nurse, and I actually went for it, because it was something in me that was pushing me to, like, don't do it, because my feelings was going to be hurt if I
Right.
didn't get it. Um but understanding too that if you do fail or fall a
Yeah.
little, that at least you know that you try, and that gives you just a little bit more experience for the next time. So
Absolutely.
those are
So
my top 10.
two things that come to mind on that last point there.
Okay.
Anytime you experience that fear, at least to me, anytime you experience some fear, to me, it's a confirmation that you need to do that for your personal growth.
Man,
It's a
I can
confirmation.
agree.
And the second
I can
portion
agree.
to that is growth. Like you said, you experience your most growth in uncertainty. Because if everything is, I don't know, like schedule, or you're actually
Right.
working in a continuous environment where you're actually on routine, of course you have habits, like healthy habits. You know what I mean? Your habits
Right.
reinforce your reality. However,
Right.
but if you have bad habits, you're definitely not going to be in a position where you're actually going to grow. So I definitely understood that last one. That one hit home for me.
Right.
Especially when
Okay.
it's uncertainty, you get your most growth, especially when it comes to that fear too. Fear is that confirmation
Right.
that you need to do it. Me personally, I used to struggle with these types of things. I am an introvert by
Okay.
default, and this is
Really?
one of those things where I am going on camera more often, especially with the things that I do. So a lot of people don't understand why we're doing this. So just to reiterate, success looks different for different individuals at certain points in their life. Like Jay actually pointed out, when she was 10 years old, she wanted a certain specific goal at that point. As she started to matriculate through life, those goals start to change as she experienced life, experience other people. Those experiences began to cultivate her mindset and actually how she wanted to actually change. And what happened over time is she actually changed her why. Her why is actually why she actually excels in life at this point, or any point in her life. Your why changes all the time. It's like your motivation. So certainly appreciate the time. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No,
Up
not a
front.
problem.
So I'm definitely going to save this video, and I definitely want to share it. But before we go, you have to share your blog spot. You have to share your contact information for individuals who
Okay.
wants to reach out to you in the future. Um,
Okay.
you can share it here. Then later on, we'll go back and post it in the comments and on the thread as well, so they can reach out,
Okay.
and then and continue the conversation if they have questions or concerns for you.
All right. So I have a blog site, and it is www.jaynoz, and that's JAYNOZ.com. I kind of started that blog site, as I said, writing is a healing thing for me, but I have been doing a Dear Black Man and a Hey Sis, where I was sending messages out to different people on a regular basis, just trying to send like encouraging words, motivation, and more so kind of speaking to them from my perspective, my point of view. And actually sometimes speaking to myself and reminding myself. So when I was sending the Dear Black Man, it was like, this is what I want black
Yeah.
men to know. So if I'm not walking in that all the time, or if I'm not speaking it all the time, this is what that meant. Sometimes I'm a little harsh and rough around the edges, but this is why. And but I'm here for you. The
Yeah.
Hey Sis, same thing. Wanted my sisters to know, like, we have been pitted against each other since I can remember, and
Yeah.
just wanting us to know like our journeys are different, but like we need that support. We need
Mhm.
somebody to be like, hey, you got it. I'm rooting for you. So you'll kind of see the conversations on jnoz.com, speaking to personal situations. I'm
Mhm.
actually working on a piece now that will probably be my most transparent, and
Mhm.
just talking about single parenthood,
Mhm.
and my perspective on that. I am John L. James on Facebook. That's Jon space capital L space James, like
Mhm.
LeBron James.
Right.
um, and I am on Instagram at JONLB23.
Absolutely.
So those are the sites that I'm on. But definitely, if you have time, please do check out my blog, subscribe, comment. I love dialogue. I love the feedback because it kind of fuels me to think in a different direction. So if I say something and you don't agree, I need to know you don't agree. Like, I want to know. I'm all about conversation and communication. So definitely check it out. Thank you so much, Maurice, for thinking of me and inviting me. And I remember I was like, you want me to write them down? And you like, I'm like, I don't have to, but I will. But I
Right.
did. I did write them down because I really did want to make sure that I was speaking from the perspective of, like, for me, success is not just one box. It's
Mhm.
a ton of things put together. And like
Mhm.
I said, creating my own definition, creating your own definition is number one in making
Absolutely.
sure you become successful. So,
I totally appreciate you sharing your experiences coupled with your top 10
absolutely.
reasons here. I definitely want to make sure I connect with you in the future when it comes to the blog there, because I actually have a few students back in my previous high school back in Chicago.
Okay.
But we'll talk offline about that. But outside of that,
Oh,
really
absolutely.
appreciate your time and your patience. Um,
Thank you.
I'll be sure anybody who's watching, I'll be sure, or actually, looking back and reviewing this interview here, um, I'll be sure to post your contact information so individuals can reach out to you. But certainly appreciate your time. Love you, man.
I am,
Have a
I'm
good
gonna get
evening.
you too because I'm gonna tell you now. When I watch these from here on out, I need to see your whole face. Don't be like trying to. Cause now that you told me you was an introvert, so
Yeah, yeah,
I need
that's
to see the whole you.
absolutely. That's something my wife, encouraged me to do maybe 2 years ago. So I'm just now hitting
Okay.
those boxes there when it comes to just being a better, well-rounded person. But you'll start seeing different
Good.
things when it comes to, like you said, parenting. Parenting's really tough, man. Especially when it comes to your own values, your norms, and your beliefs. And then you
Mhm.
just have to think about that child when it comes to their biological parent versus their other parent and how they're being pulled 4 different ways. They have to be able
Right.
to communicate different languages to
And,
different people. So that's a whole different
and yeah,
conversation. But I'm so
whole nother one, but we definitely could have it.
absolutely, absolutely appreciate the time now, man. Y'all have
Thank
a good evening.
you.
All right now. Bye.
Bye bye.